Welcome to Syncast powered by Commercient. I'm Heath McKnight. Joining me today and again is Dave Ward, co-founder and CEO of Meticulosity. Dave, welcome back. Really happy to have you join us again on Syncast.
Yeah, great to be here, Heath.
Awesome. And, I've really enjoyed our conversation last year. We talked about inbound sales. We talked about HubSpot, data integration with Commercient, how that's important, ERP and HubSpot. But most importantly, we talked a lot about, not just the inbound sales, but also digital transformation. And you and I spoke recently, a couple weeks ago, and you told me that Meticulosity is working on a lot of really cool and interesting stuff, and just wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting and exciting year since we talked last. Meticulosity as an agency has really pivoted our business model and who we serve and how. We've been doing inbound and development and things around supporting inbound efforts and whether that's sales or marketing for 15 years. But we changed our core vertical from helping organizations do inbound to focusing explicitly on working with other agencies to basically be behind the scenes as a white label partner to help them get stuff done on HubSpot and execution of inbound strategies. And so we went from really working with the direct the end customer to now working with organizations that work with the direct customer. So it's been that's been a lot of change, but it's, niching down like that has been really beneficial because now we have been able to build processes and things around, serving just a specific, group of businesses and a specific need, instead of trying to be, everything to anybody or, having inbound be our niche. Now it's execution of inbound for agencies, and that's a much more dialed in approach. And you mentioned automation and processes and digital transformation. What we found most exciting about that is kind of two things. When we were with our old sort of approach to business and verticals, sure, we knew a lot about some specific industries, addiction treatment and medical, complex, high-tech manufacturing and engineering and things like that. And we knew a lot about those industries because we've been working in them for 15 years. But, we're not an addiction treatment facility. We're not a high-tech manufacturer. So there's a limit to really what we know. And what's been really cool getting into this new phase of our business is, one thing that we know more about than anything else is what it's like to be an agency. And so now we can really speak to the challenges and solutions and things that, our industry specifically is facing. And so it's given us an even deeper insight and ability to help. And then the other cool sort of outcome of that is, for probably the past 8 years or so, Meticulosity has been really focused on and dedicated to our own internal process automation and interconnecting systems using everything from tools like Zapier or Make and Integromat to data tools like Commercient. We realized that over the last 8 years we've been building these fantastic processes and automations that now all of a sudden we have an audience, or we have our core vertical of agencies. A lot of the people we work with don't have these. And so all this stuff that we've spent all this time building for ourselves is now suddenly a product, and we can help other agencies, onboard clients more effectively, notify staff of tasks or tickets that haven't been updated in a week or whatever those things are. All these tools we built for ourselves are now things that we can help other agencies do. So it's been like I said, an exciting year or so since we decided to take the plunge and go all in on a single vertical. And yeah, we're not looking back. We don't regret it at all. So,
wow, that's a lot of great stuff, Dave. And I kind of want to dive into each little piece. One of the things that kind of came to my mind, when it comes to, and this is kind of just like drawing kind of a parallel, if you will, in marketing, you got to find your audience. And maybe you have a broad audience because you're Coca-Cola, right? Like it's one of, if not the number one brand in the world. But maybe you're more of like you're more of a, I hate to use the word niche, but you're doing something a little bit with a little bit narrow audience. Why would you try to market broadly? Where I live, there's a lot of equestrian. Actually, I think it's still here. The world's largest equestrian show is in this area, and if you're advertising to that market, that's great. But why would you advertise outside that market unless you're trying to get people to travel? So what I'm trying to say is, I can see trying to be very broad. And sometimes things start slipping through the cracks. Sometimes people aren't reached, aren't helped. So I think that's a really interesting pivot. And I could see how you can take those strengths, as you mentioned, the things that have been helping you to pass along to your clients who are now the consultants. So I hope you don't mind me just thinking about all this and kind of processing it. Really exciting. But I guess, and this is probably something that maybe other companies, not necessarily consultancies, but maybe other companies right now in this day and age where credit's a little bit tighter, interest rates a little bit higher, maybe it's harder to kind of expand, or maybe they need to focus on something and they start thinking, can we do a pivot? So I guess two questions are, what kind of prompted that pivot? Was it everything you detailed, just seeing what helped you could help an agency help their own customers, therefore kind of narrowing how your focus is? And then how did you successfully start that pivot?
I mean, we were already a global economy, it's been this way for a while, but one thing I feel that COVID really did is there was sort of a mass, digital transformation. Again, sure, you could get DoorDash or Uber Eats pre-pandemic, but it was a handful of restaurants and a handful of drivers, and now suddenly there's this entire new vertical worth billions, if not trillions of dollars in delivery. But even think of your average retail store. They all of a sudden needed to have online ordering and online pickup, and we worked with a clothing boutique where again, this was the pandemic. So they were having personal shopping appointments. It was the only way to get into the store was to have an appointment. Yeah. You'd go through with one person and they could only do so many of these at a time. And so all of a sudden you had a business that used to be brick and mortar where people just, their only sales were in person. Now all of a sudden they had to accommodate, digital transactions, but even digitizing physical appointments. You can't run an appointment system, on pen and paper in this day and age. So all that stuff combined, I think there's more competition, right? And because now I'm not just considering a clothing shop down the street. I've got tens of thousands of boutique clothing stores across the country that now ship to me where 5 years ago, there was only a handful of retailers that, did
Sure.
that. So
Yeah.
I think part of, the us needing to shift was we saw our organic traffic really just start to dwindle over time in the last 5 years. It was harder and harder to, attract traffic to our website and convert them into opportunities. And that's because everybody else had to step up their game. And, we're all competing for this, for the traffic. Whereas,
Sure.
it was a little different in the pre-pandemic era. So that was definitely a big driving force was, okay, we needed to have a new strategy to continue to scale and to grow traffic and opportunities. And you can't be a generalist and, show up on the first page of Google. You've got to, you have to niche your content down in order to be successful with organic strategies. And again, unless you're Coke, but everybody else has to play a different game. So, we were exploring, well, how do we, what are the potential industries we could focus on and create content around? And we actually, we started with three different industries. So we started with addiction treatment and recovery services because we've had a long-term niche there. Also senior living facilities. And then we looked at white label agency to agency. And so what we did was we went from, having a pretty broad offering. Again, it was really anybody who did inbound on HubSpot was a potential prospect to, okay, let's narrow that down to a couple. And then we spent probably 4 to 6 months creating content and testing the waters in each one of those. And there was a clear winner.
Yeah.
And then that's when we really narrowed down into one niche. But, again, bigger companies are typically bigger because they've already got a niche. They already serve a specific need of a big enough market and all of that. But man, I think back on the, I've been an entrepreneur for my entire professional career.
Wow.
But Meticulosity's been in business for 16 years. And I think back to, year 1, year 2, year 3, and, your mentors or books you read, they tell you to niche down, but, you're a small business, you're an entrepreneur, you've got to take money from who has the money. And so for us, there was a fear associated to, well, gee, if we niche down too much, are we going to make enough money at it? But the reality is the smaller we made our niche, we've signed over 15 agencies in the last 6 months. And
wow,
we never signed 15 addiction treatments in 6 months, centers in 6 months before. We never signed 15 high-tech manufacturing companies in 6 months before. So, there's sort of like awesome, we're on the right track, but then you're thinking to yourself, oh, I should have done this 13 years ago. What have I, and maybe I'd be sitting on the beach right now. Maybe not in the Caribbean. I don't think I'd want to be there, but maybe Hawaii or something. Yeah. So, so that was sort of the journey of, and one of my favorite, sales mentors is a guy called Dan Tyre. I hate to keep name dropping HubSpot, but he's been with the HubSpot organization for 15, 20 years as one of their chief salespeople. And he has a phrase, the riches are in the niches. And, I heard him say this 10, 12 years ago, and but I got to take money from anybody. And
gotta keep the lights on. Yeah.
Should have listened to Dan Tyre years ago. That's why, again, we're happy we did it. But again, these other, revelations, if you call them, of, let's assume we picked just a different industry. I mean, yes, we're obviously going to know more about agency problems because we're an agency and we've been one for 15 years, that's sort of a no-brainer. But even if we had picked addiction treatment, the more you work in one industry, the more you learn about it, the more expertise you grow, the more you understand about the specific challenges and business needs and processes and where you can make things more efficient and be more effective at marketing or sales or RevOps or DevOps or whatever ops it is. And so whatever vertical we picked, we've seen, an uptick in expertise in that, but it's also allowed us to tool our business and our delivery and processes internally around just delivering one kind of thing to one specific vertical and need. So our processes are that much better than they were a year ago or 2 years ago, because then we had to have processes that were similar but slightly different for this vertical and this vertical and that vertical. And we had to have documentation that was different. And we had to, on our website and our content, to speak to multiple needs and, solutions. And now we can dial it in. We only have one set of products. We only have one set of processes, because that's the only type of business we work with now. So, it's made everything, we've just gotten better at what we do and more effective and more profitable. And I had this thought in your sort of leading question of, the economy is not what it used to be. Interest rates are different. It's harder to sell. You've got to sell more. One place where any business can do better is, increasing your own profit margin, right? Reducing your costs, reducing expenses and staff, utilizing automation, utilizing AI, all of those different tools, because, a 42% profit margin is going to make you more money, all things equal, than a 30% profit margin would when you're doing things, a different and less efficient way. And so that's actually, the proof's in the pudding. In 2023, Meticulosity's revenue was actually down from the prior year, but our profits went up to a degree where we ended up paying, and we won't get into the politics of this, but we ended up paying more taxes in a year where we made less money. And it's, again, not because we made more money, but it's because, our profit margin was that much bigger. So, there's the measurable impact of, yes, I think businesses need to, adopt a future-proof and a new business model for the new era that we're in, but they also need to spend time reflecting on their own business processes and looking at automation and how they can use data and different tools that are out there to make more money without having to sell another gig, right?
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and it kind of makes sense, because again, I'm seeing the parallels, and in this case, how can you kind of get your company to be a little bit leaner? And I want to go further into automation in a moment with you about how that can help. And maybe revenue is down a little bit, but profits are up because the overhead has been, kind of taken care of through digital transformation, automation, et cetera. But it really does sound like, Meticulosity is, and forgive me for saying this, a consultant to the consultant, but really you're also becoming a strategic partner. And I'm guessing that these companies are saying they're going through a lot of the same things that I think any business is going through right now, kind of going back to higher interest rates. The budgets have gotten very tight all around, from the bottom up, top down, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Um, and to kind of focus on the niche of helping them out. And I think it does make sense that these businesses would say, hey, get on the phone with you and your team and say, hey, listen, you guys are figuring this out and you're willing to help. We need to keep our own lights on, and the one thing, and I think I had mentioned this to you in a previous call. In the Southeast back in 2006, 2007, they kind of had United States. They had the housing crash kind of before the rest of the world, really the rest of America, and people were leaving those areas. They were looking for other opportunities, and it had that trickle down effect into, for example, grocery store. And I have friends that they started as teenagers working at these grocery stores, and now they're managers, department or store managers. And I remember them telling me years ago, they said, we aren't really laying people off, but if somebody leaves, we're not hiring somebody new. We are looking for a way, if we have to kind of maybe take on a little bit of that extra work, but is there something we can do? And technology was helping that at that time, because, digital transformation in those sectors were really starting to get very good and kind of blowing up. And they were able to become lean and keep going strong and everything. And I'm kind of like getting that kind of feeling right now with that. And is that kind of where some of these agencies, they're coming to you saying, hey, listen, Meticulosity, how can you help us out? We need to get lean. We need to streamline our processes and then help our customers adopt those same processes as well. Kind of like paying it forward, sort of, if you will.
Yeah.
How can you help us with the lessons you learn, Meticulosity, so not only we can help ourselves, but then pass it along to our customers who are going through the same exact thing, if they're manufacturers or service industry, or in this case, like maybe delivery, distribution for grocery stores.
Yeah. Well, a couple points. I mean, and this is true of agents, the agency ecosystem, but again, I'm sure 95% of other businesses have the same issue. It's that, that cobbler's kids have no shoes type, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
A problem. I mean, a lot of the agencies we work with, and that we were also guilty of at certain times in our 16 years in business, is I'm helping my clients build workflows, let's say in HubSpot, to automate kickback emails and send out seek and enroll them in sales sequences, etc. I'm helping my clients do that because they're paying me.
Mm-hmm.
But I, the agency, am not taking the time to do that for myself. So, rewind a few years back, all of our clients are using these fantastic workflows we built in HubSpot, but we didn't have any built for us because, well, no one's paying us to do that. So,
I see.
That's that, if you have to be able, I mean, that's an investment, in your own organization that, will pay off. So, for us, a lot of it came down to realizing that, again, with the labor market, that we had to be able to have systems to do things and get stuff done, regardless of who was on the other end, who was executing the work on our side, because we were changing up employees, or employees were leaving, or, we had to make cuts because of revenue, or whatever those things are. So we were smart enough, and we took the time to invest to build those. But I think also, it's to bring it all back to our first conversation with inbound marketing and, personalized content, and then bring it to here. 10 years ago, or 15, the only company that was hyper personalizing content and transactional e-commerce, this was Amazon. And
Yeah.
I don't know, Best Buy or whoever, like the giants, right? They had the systems and tools. Then along comes HubSpot, and then all the people that copied HubSpot, and there's lots of
Yeah.
other tools now that do the same thing, and they're, again, doing something is better than nothing. If it doesn't have to be HubSpot, but
Right.
in my opinion, HubSpot put the power that enterprise organizations had into the small and mid-sized business, toolbox, so that we could automate things and we could personalize content and all of the stuff to do the same things that they've been doing for years. And
Yeah.
so I think digital transformation, up until recently, that's a thing that, well, IBM does that, and Red Hat, and that's an enterprise
Right.
thing.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how many restaurant owners that own own a half dozen restaurants, or how many small businesses even really know what digital transformation is, and what they how it could benefit them. But again, that they think of it as something that's unattainable, or that they can't do because they're not IBM or
Right.
Coke. And I think we're getting to the point now where the tools are available. You can sign up for Zapier for free, but $20 a month if you want it, the to have the bells and whistles that a small business would need. And you can automate stuff for $20 a month. You just you have to know what you don't know. I mean, so you asked, and tying this all together, you asked, are agencies coming to us and saying, hey, we want to streamline, we want to automate? Actually, no, not yet.
Okay.
And that's something, we hope to get to a point. What's happening is they're coming to us for the other services we offer, for the HubSpot support, for
Okay.
PPC management, for web development. And that's what they come to us thinking that they need and we offer. And then through, again, inbound and nurturing, we're able to tell them, hey, did you know that you could make more money without selling anymore by using this process that we built, or whatever. So I think
Yeah.
we're in the coming years, digital transformation will be something that small and mid-market businesses are looking for, and that there will be providers, consultants, and software to support that industry. Because a few years ago, the tools weren't even there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of the cart before the horse now, but soon come, that'll be a thing. And I actually, I know a guy that lives in Vancouver that owns, a consultancy that does business process automation for small and medium businesses and wealth management specifically. And, when he was telling me that he's on the golf course and somebody asks him what his company does, you mentioned digital transformation, and there's no follow-up questions. People don't even that's where the conversation dies.
Interesting.
And again, and I thought that was interesting because again, I don't think people realize that it's a tangible now that they can have. And just an
Yeah.
example of, like, well, how can I what does a digital transformation look like for a marketing agency? I mean, for us, and man, I'd love to show you, but it would take up half a podcast just to go to demo it. But
Yeah.
we've built this extremely complex process using Integromat or Make.com to string together PandaDoc, HubSpot, Slack,
Wow.
QuickBooks, and our project management tool, so that somebody signs a proposal with us and it kicks off about 40 things that happen behind the scenes that do the work that someone used to have to manually do,
Yeah.
that uses HubSpot to send emails that are personalized emails from account managers that are,
Right.
thanks for signing the proposal. Let's book a call. It goes into Google Drive and takes a template and customizes it with the client's name and drops it in a folder. So what we do is about 3.5 to 4 hours of previously manual labor gets done in seconds.
Amazing.
To the point where the account managers haven't had to lift a finger until they show up to the onboarding call. And even then, the deck is already waiting for them ready to go. And
Wow.
so, talking with another agency owner, they're closing 7 deals a week right now. So that's,
28 hours right there.
20, 12, it's 3.5 to 4 hours of work times
Okay.
28.
Yeah. So
That's
I mean,
almost a half-time, full-time
yeah.
person that's getting done in 45 seconds at a clip, and nobody
Yeah, I
has
see
to
what you're
think,
saying.
and you don't drop balls. So that's just one piece. And there, our agency has a dozen of these things. Not all of them save 3.5 hours. Some of them save minutes. Some of them save an hour. Some of them are also just tools to notify us when we've left a ticket sitting for over a week and nobody's updated it. It
The
helps us
worst thing
not
you could
drop
do.
balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah, and
worst
be
thing.
better at customer service. And so, again, even a small agency or a $10 million agency or organization, there's probably a dozen or dozens of processes where you're going to be able to save anywhere from minutes to hours, and multiply that, and all of a sudden, all things equal, your profit margin just went up by and you're faster, more effective, and it's better quality product and delivery, right?
Right.
And so those are the kinds of things that we love doing, and that I think that entire market is, it's in 3 years there's going to be $1 billion in consulting for small business digital transformation.
Yeah. And that's amazing. It makes me think of, the data integration automation that Commercient SYNC does.
I was just going to go there.
Yeah, I may have shared this with you, and I may have shared it on an episode many years ago. At the time I started with Commercient, I have a friend who does resale of the former industry I was in, which was film and video, more coverage. I used to be in production, but the news about it. And and that's how he met me. He's like, I love reading your articles and everything. And he has a warehouse because they sell cameras, they sell computers. If I need a bunch of edit systems, he gets them, he talks to them, builds them. I need some cameras and all that stuff. And he said, I am hiring somebody at our warehouse to type in orders, the sales team. These could be like $50,000 to $100,000 orders, filling it out on paper. Because I asked them, hands it over to, I guess, like a sales support associate. That's what he was hiring. Benefits, not a lot of money, but benefits, looking for somebody kind of in college or right out of college. This is their job. Type in the order into their Salesforce org, type in the order into Sage 50, their ERP. And I'm like, this is 40 hours a week. And he didn't tell me, the amount of sales, but let's say they do 20 to 50 sales a week, right? And I told my boss, the co-founder, Richard Jenkins, he said, we could do that in seconds. We could do that accurately, obviously, and no knock on somebody, but it's very easy to swap the billing address and the shipping address, because they may have a warehouse, because they may be reselling, or maybe they have a studio here and the owner of the actual company, maybe it's, they own multiple studios, they're over here. And that's 40 hours a week of benefits, retirement. And look, I am all about jobs. I'm all about not costing anybody, but there is just a level of what could we do to automate this and save us time? We have a customer that does such massive amount of sales, B2B and B2C. He told me I have a choice. I could either have Commercient SYNC automate these back and forth between their e-commerce, CRM, and ERP, or I could hire 3 people to do it. Or we need to have a major report done monthly. It takes 4 people pulling all this data from different sources in hours. So that's 4 hours right there, or even weekly. Commercient does it for them in no time, and it takes that person less than an hour in their CRM to create that report. So I'm given everything you said is stuff that just data integration automatically happening. I just had to say that because it made me think of that story, and we did go to him and everything, and tell him, look, if you haven't hired anybody, but it just seems like you could be hiring so many people to do so many things that could be done and save that money, would it not break the bank of the consultant, who can then take that extra time that they're not wasting to focus on growing their own sales, but taking care of the customers, or as you said, customer service, customer support. We see that a lot too, the benefits of data integration helping with customer support. But that could be the kiss of death for a company. And I'm sorry if I'm going on and on, but it just what you said is something like Commercient SYNC, just doing the e-commerce or CRM and ERP data integration can save hours of work, or even minutes. A lot of our customers don't allow their salespeople into the ERP, but they're asking the accounting team to drop what they're doing to send them a report of what somebody ordered 9-10 months ago. Can you send me that report? And they're having to pull that together. And again, it's wasting time when they could just pop it up on HubSpot on their phone before meeting the client. And again, it's more time to be able to check on customers, grow sales. And then, like I was saying, kind of passing that knowledge back to their own customer base.
Well, and, that's the cool thing about, again, when we help agencies, they are learning how to better help their clients as well. And you've got that trickle down of knowledge and efficiency and all that. But, I mean, heck, I spent however many minutes, just talking about the time to move an object through a few different systems and do some stuff. But man, data, I mean, think about that. 40 hours a week of typing things, from a piece of paper, or copy pasting from one system to another. And, but think about the accuracy. I mean, Commercient's going to do it right every time.
Yeah.
And you can also build logic. I mean, again, it's not quite so straightforward. Only on these types of orders should these things get swapped. Well, that's just logic that can be coded and set up, and again, it's right every time. And what do mistakes cost? But I think you're right. And there's you only, as a business, only has so much money to spend on labor,
right?
And that 40 hours a week could go, you could use that labor cost to improve your product, to improve your customer service, to help sell. I mean, think of all the things that you could do with that money instead of copy and pasting, from one system to another, and you're going to get turnover. Nobody wants to do those manual things.
Right.
And what, just to throw in, again, everybody's talking about AI right now. And
I was just thinking,
I hate to bring it up because it's, it's the buzzword of the week, or the year, I guess. But, there's all these tools out there to do things with AI, but a lot of people haven't figured out like how to use them, how to incorporate them into workflows, how to leverage those tools, which ones, and what, for what functions. Mm-hmm. But so one of the things we've done in that same process of, onboarding a customer, is, well, we used to have, one of the steps was that we'd have to go to the customer's website and copy and paste some text about the customer and paste it in, or maybe we would go and, we just manually write it, some general couple paragraphs of background information on the customer. Well, we've worked right into the automated process, having AI. Why should I go to the website and spend 5 minutes summarizing what this new client does when you can tell ChatGPT to crawl every page of their website, every reputable source on the internet, their LinkedIn page, and then come up with the best description of what they do, their value prop, and how we can help them, and do it in milliseconds without anybody having to think about it. And so right in our process, when we're when we're creating these different records and different software tools, we're having ChatGPT go out and do some work to save more time. And not only is it saving time, but if you give the right prompts, AI can do something better than most people can. Again, it's not going to replace all of our jobs, but the jobs will be replaced by people who know how to use AI, not by AI itself, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a wonderful way of using it, for sure. And I think the potential of AI to help businesses is really amazing, from something kind of small to more major things. Where do you see consultancies, like what I'm trying to word this, I guess, like maybe what are some of the more common pain points, probably the ones that you, Meticulosity, were kind of noticing, identifying, and correcting through automation, a little bit of AI and everything, HubSpot, et cetera. What are some of the most common pain points that you have seen with agencies?
Yeah, I mean, and absolutely, we saw them and have created an entire business model around solving them. But it's a lot of times it's skill gaps. Again, so we work with HubSpot agencies, but we also work with agencies that are not HubSpot partners, but they do marketing, they do branding, they do ad buys, whatever that is. But sometimes there's a component to a project that there's 20% of the requirements I don't know how to do. So somebody wants to buy do a $100,000 ad campaign on Google and Facebook. Well, maybe that's what my agency does, but they have to do it all within HubSpot and have a bunch of workflows set up in HubSpot to to do email nurturing for people that fill out the form in the campaign, whatever that is. And so, well, they don't want to turn down this job.
Yeah.
Because 80% of it is their expertise, but then there's this 20% that, well, I can't win the job, I can't do the job if I don't have that skill in-house. And so, and again, I'm not, this isn't a sales pitch on Meticulosity. This is this is an everyday, I was constantly, as sort of the operations person, having to find resources to fill, whether it was they want to hire us for an inbound marketing campaign, but they're using Drupal for their, an antiquated CMS system, and they need some new module built. And I can't do the inbound marketing without that Drupal thing. So I have to go out and find a Drupal resource to build this tool that my team is going to use and execute. So there's this, filling skill gaps, but also, the hiring and the labor, and people leaving. It's, the agency life's, it's a revolving door. You have people coming and going, and what happens when you just brought on 2 new clients, but, you're one of your account managers leaves, your developer leaves, your,
Mm-hmm.
HubSpot expert leaves. Well, do you go hire a new one, and do you pay $8,000 a month for a salary and train them up and spend 3 months onboarding them and getting them up to speed, only for them to leave you in another 6 months
Oh,
because someone
yeah.
offered them, 2% more? And so a lot of pain points, again, are around labor gaps, not having capacity or having people leave. And when you work with the vendor, most of the time the vendors are built around staffing up and down or capacity up and down. And so then you don't have to worry about, hiring people when you outsource. But other common problems, again, I think it's that cobbler's kids have no shoes story of
Yeah.
they're so busy doing marketing and sales enablement or whatever for their clients that they don't do it themselves. So lead generation, internal marketing and branding, those are often things that just get left by the wayside. I think, again, competition, and in the marketing world, the landscape is changing so fast. The tools that we use today are different than 3 years ago and 5 years ago. And the Google algorithm gets updated every 3-4 months. And
Mm.
long form content is out, and we want 400-word blog posts. Oh, nope. Long form content is back in. We're going to prefer 2,000-word blog posts. And
Yeah.
having to stay up on that and constantly pivoting, it does get exhausting,
Sure.
and it's hard to sustain. So yeah.
Gotcha. And the last question I have is just really quick, getting back to digital transformation, and the company thinking, well, that's an enterprise thing. And I remember there was a time a few years ago, maybe a decade or so ago, where when people heard CRM, they thought, well, that's what Apple uses, that's what Coca-Cola uses, that's what these enterprise companies use. And now they can use a HubSpot, they can use a CRM that's pretty darn good, not something that's kind of built in and not that good with their ERP. But with digital transformation, as small to mid-market companies start to say, hey, we really can do this and grow our sales. You had mentioned before our call that you saw an article that talked
Mm.
about the importance of digital transformation. And I was wondering if you could share, because it kind of made me kind of go, whoa, hold on a
Yeah,
second
yeah.
here.
Well,
For the
so
businesses, but small to mid market.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, it was an article I saw on The Economist, about digital transformation, and it was 9 out of 10 companies now believe that digital transformation is a requirement to succeed. And
Yeah.
so, that's the sign, that the dam's about to break, and it's going to become. I don't think for much longer a business doing their sales tracking in Excel is going to be able to stay in business anymore.
Yeah.
You're either on a CRM or you're out of business.
Yeah.
You're either, you know, SEO optimized or your phone doesn't ring. I mean, and some of those things are already true, but there was, I think, more space in the old world for those antiquated business models and systems to survive, and that's not going to last anymore. Because again, your competitors are doing it,
Yeah.
and so if you don't, they're just going to outdo you, because labor costs are going to keep going up, and
Mm-hmm.
service and software. I mean, gosh, my Google Workplace, it's gone from $6.99 a user to $16.99 in 2 years. Everything's
Yeah.
getting more expensive, and so that you can sell more,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and or you can be more efficient and have a higher profit margin. And, those are the only two options.
Excellent.
Or,
And oh, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, I said, or ideally both.
Yeah.
Sell more while increasing your profit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pay more taxes.
Yeah, right. I guess that would be a good problem to have. Finally, Dave, how can they find out, our viewers find out more about Meticulosity and take advantage of a lot of the things your company has learned over the years to, like you said, to kind of overcome the cobbler's kids have no shoes?
Yeah. So for us, I mean, if you're a digital agency, a marketing agency, an ad agency, I mean, we really specialize in support agencies, and we'd love to talk to you about, again, helping you fill skill gaps, or hopefully you've listened to this and had an aha moment that I could save 80 hours a month onboarding customers. I should talk to these guys. We're easy to find, meticulosity.com. I know I picked a really hard word to spell, but it is a real word. It's in fact the winner of the 1950 National Spelling Bee, but it's a mouthful, meticulosity.com. And then I guess since not everybody listening to this is probably going to be in the agency world, I just throw a bone to mention that other consultancy I was talking to that does business process transformation. Hey, I don't know, go check them out. They're tacklebox.digital. Maybe they can help you too if you're not an agency, because again, any level of process standardization, process automation, data management, CRM, doing something is always better than doing whatever you're doing now that's probably not working. And it doesn't, to me, digital transformation doesn't need to be something that you're going to do in 2 months and 3 months and you're going to upturn everything about your business all at once. There's nothing wrong with incremental. Start with one process, add a second, add a third. And I think there's a lot of value. Of course, we're a consultancy, but there's a lot of value in speaking to someone who knows what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So getting a partner like Meticulosity or Tacklebox or the guy down the street from you that does, small business process automation, experts will know all the things that you don't know that you could automate on a day-to-day basis. And so just going to Zapier.com and figuring out yourself, you'll probably make some improvements, but getting an expert or a consultant is, I think, a great idea too. And, those are things where, again, it's an investment. And again, speaking to the small and medium-sized companies, it's an investment where you have a choice. You can do it probably, or maybe your COO, if you've got a good ops person, you can invest your own time and labor into these things. But your time and labor is money too. Yeah. And so, paying a consultant, if you automate the right processes, you might have an ROI in months, or weeks, depending on what you're doing and how often you do it. And so you're going to get a return on that investment.
Excellent. Dave, thanks again for joining us on SYNCcast.
Sure.
Thank you for watching and listening to SYNCcast powered by Commercient. If you'd like to learn more about Sync, ERP, and CRM data integration, please visit our website, commercient.com. Thank you.